Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Jazz Fraser. I'm going to give you a little show news and a word on tonight. I'm going to give you a powerful Hurricane Lee. We have this hurricane season. So we have Hurricane Lee, which was a category 1. Was the storm Thursday, that was Thursday, intensified with exceptional speed in warm ocean water is wind, speed a limit of 165. So a powerful Hurricane Lee will create a hazardous condition along the East Coast, regardless of its uncertain track. Category is at Category 3 now. Hurricane Lee remains hundreds of miles east of Caribbean, on Saturday morning. But yet, forecasts, say the storm effect may have an impact on the United States Atlantic, seaboard as early as this weekend. So they will be still monitoring this hurricane Lee. So I have an update on the war, Ukraine and Russia. So Russia and Ukraine, war list of events they are 562 days. So United States give like 600 million, more in the military equipment to Ukraine. So 3, Cuban arrests, 17 trafficking men to fight on Russia and Ukraine. So there was 17, they arrest 17 for trafficking men to fight for Russia, but they was in Ukraine. So for Ukraine president, and Israel and Benjamin discussed Israel's support for KYV, that's a city in Ukraine. So the Ukraine president has said that Russia Air Superior was stopping in this city here, Connor, and he complained of the slow rate of both Western delivering and sensitivity on Russia. Now, if we are not in the sky, he said, if we not in the sky, and Russia, and they stop us from in the sky, they stop our counter offense, he said. He said he don't want them, no one to stop them while they're in the air. So Russia detained a man that accused of plotting, real bombing, and serving. Russia citizen, is accused of preparing a bomb, under instruction of Ukraine military intelligence. They have been targeted by Ukraine drone raid and sabotage attacks, as they try to retake, Pensacola. They took place in 2014. So FSB is a federal security service, said on Friday the suspect, a Russian citizen in his mid-40s, had been collecting information on deployment of Russia Defense Ministry Fifth Policy unit and was preparing a railway bomb. So he was preparing this bomb. So in a hiding place that he had ordained, had found a size, improvised explosive device made using foreign-made plastic explosive. So he was putting all this together, so he was really preparing this bomb. And the man had been acting on the instruction of Ukraine military intelligence and had been remained in custody. So Ukraine president and Prime Minister Benjamin had held a meeting to discuss how Israel could assist Ukraine in this war with Russia. So the pair met. Ukraine president pressed for more open help from Israel state. So that's an update up there on the walls. He said they're stopping them in the air. He said they don't need them to be stopping them in the air. you know, and also you have President Uriah president. He had a meeting with Benjamin, so they had held a meeting to discuss how Israel could assist Uriah in this war with Russia. So I also have a word for you tonight. So our plan. We be thinking it's our plan, but it's God's plan. Now David dreamed this here beautiful temple. But it's God's plan because see, God have a meaning to whatever He create. So He took that and started creating because some of the plan got some of with Adam and Eve. And they have the history on the Israelites. So they have a lot of stuff in that plan that meant something for history. So he took over that. So Chronicle 28 verse 1 through 21. Now this story, David, that he dreamed to build a temple. But for the Lord, God chose David's son Solomon. So David summoned all the officials of Israel to assembly, at Jerusalem. And the officer over the tribes, the commander of the division in the service of the king, the commander of thousands and commanders of hundreds, and the official charge of all the property and livestock belonging to the king. And his son together with the palace official, warranty, and all the brave fighting men. Now, David, he just found out. He just found out that God wanted his son to build the temple. So now David letting all the people know in public that he had it in his heart, to build this temple. But God have a plan for his son to build the temple. So David rose up, on his feet and said, "Listen to me, my fellow Israelite. My people had it in my eye." He telling his people that he have it in his heart, to build this house, place for the rest, for the all the covenant of the law, for the footstool of our God, and I made a plan to build it. Now he started saying he made the plan to build it, but God is God's plan, and He wants the way He wanted the temple to be. So David wanted all the people in the public to know that he wanted to build the temple, but God chose my son Solomon to build it. So God in power, and we is His footstool. But God said to me that you are not to build a house for my name, because you are worthy and have shed blood. He shed many blood. Because see, a lot of what he did was not on God. He didn't get permission from God to do a lot of work. So he did it on his own. Remember, he killed that woman, Bathsheba, husband, and then he turned around and married. That wasn't God doing. So a lot of stuff he was on his journey doing, he shed blood on his own. So David is speaking on why he not building the temple, because he shed blood. But yet the Lord, the God of Israel, had chose me from my whole family. Now, God picking his son. So now he going back in his back history. But when God had chose him, I think he was like 16, 17 years old. So he's saying now God doing what he had did me back then. God chose me to be anointed to be the king over the Israelites among all my brothers. He said among my whole family, to be a king over Israel forever. Now he chose Judah as a leader, and from the tribes of Judah he chose my family, and from my father's son he was pleased to make me king over all Israel. Now he said God was pleased. Yeah, God is pleased with him. God was pleased with him. but he did a lot of stuff on his own by shedding blood. So now David is talking about his past, saying God passed by all his brothers, and God did, who was elder than him, and ordered him to be anointed king over Israel. Now, all my sons, now he's saying he got a lot of sons. He in his feelings right now. So, and the Lord had given many. He had chosen my son Solomon to sit on the throne of the kingdom of the Lord Israel. Now he said he had many sons, just like his father did. Had many sons, but God picked you. So David's talking about when he got in position among his brothers, but God had picked him. Now David's saying all his sons that he have, but God picked Solomon. So the kingdom of Israel had belonged to the Lord, but David or anyone else, Israel king commissioned to carry out God's will, for the nation. Now it don't matter if you old or you young, but God appointed him. That's just like when God was trying to pick Solomon, he had the Israelites to start picking their kings and stuff. And remember, he told them, don't worry about the look on the outside. Don't worry about, because Saul was handsome when he came in. Saul was tall, good looking, and handsome. So that's why God had told him, don't just pick, because of his good looking and stuff. So God don't pick because you look in Hollywood. He gonna pick certain people who we want to appoint to do things. So he said to me, Solomon, your son is the one who will build my house, a temple, in my court. For I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father. So I will establish his kingdom forever, if he is in carrying out my command and law as is being done at this time. Now he's saying, long as Solomon keep his command, God gonna be good to him. And if he don't, I saw the movie, he saw getting so many multiple wives and stuff. So he stopped carrying out God's command. So stop carrying out the command and law as being done at this time. So God will establish his kingdom forever. David's son, his son Solomon, had to carry out God's command to have this established for life. For him to have this established for life, he had to constantly keep carrying God's command. So now I charge you in the sight of all the Israel in assembly of the Lord, and in the hearing of our God, be careful to follow all the commands, in this good land, and pass it on, to your inheritance, to your deceiving forever, So God telling him, you gonna have a man for the rest of your life. All you gotta do is keep my command. So David had told Solomon to be careful, to obey all God's commands, to ensure Israel prosperity of David deceiving on the throne. And see what it is. He's supposed to God was gonna let each of David family take the throne every time one time. But then God gonna have to break that cycle. He gonna break that cycle because Jesus gonna come over. That's still the bloodline. And then somebody else who was a king was not in David bloodline, but everybody in David bloodline supposed to be the king. And you, my son Solomon, acknowledge God of your father and serve him with wholehearted devotion and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches every heart and understands every desire and every thought. So our Heavenly Father, He can search your heart. He can know your thought. He can know you for real now. If you real in faith, He can know your heart, your mind, and your thought. So if you seek Him, He will be found by you. But if you forsake Him, He will reject you forever. So the Lord searches every heart. He sees and understands everything in our heart. So God sent Nathan, to tell David. So Nathan was the one who told David, You know, that God don't want you to build the temple. You know, because it's adultery he did with the women. You know, killed the woman husband, and then turn around and married her. You know, so and murder. You know, so God has said too much has been said. You know, that David told Solomon to be open with God and stay connected with God. You know, because see, he got disconnected when he saw killing people on husband and stuff and turn around and marry. You know, he had multiple wives. You know, and down the line we see Solomon gonna be the same way. You know, so David gave his son Solomon principles to guide him through life and encourage his son. See, he made a lot of mistakes, so now he trying to give his son principles to go by to make sure he keep God's command. Cause see, he gonna be dying soon. Cause he kind of old, so he trying to help his son out to keep God in your life and to protect you. He said you gotta follow these principles. Now, one, he said, we all, in myself, we have to know God personally. You know, so two, learn God command and follow it. So that's what he trying to tell him now. So three, worship God with your whole heart and devotion. You know, four, serve God with a willing mind. You have to be willing, you know, to do your purpose. You know, that's what I had spoke on yesterday. Spoke on that yesterday. When you got a purpose on your life, God not gonna give you a purpose, you know, if you fully don't like doing it. Everybody's purpose is you got a deep passion for it. You know, you gotta have a passion for it. You know, if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, you're saying that's not your purpose. You know, worship God with your wholehearted devotion. Serve God with a willing mind. Faithful and not discouraged. You know, I'm talking to myself also. See, a lot of these lessons that I be putting out, you know, so sometimes it be putting out for me too. Because a lot of time I listen to my own stuff, get healing from my own work. So a lot of stuff I put out for y'all it be for myself too. You know, serve God with a willing mind, faithful and not discouraged. That's the main thing I have to constantly rebuke and try to stay on track. You got to be faithful in your storm and you have to not be discouraged. You know, so he want his son to do the work and don't be afraid and be strong. You know, so David is real old, you know, and he's still trying to give his son tips. You know, now consider now, for the Lord had chosen you to build a house at a sanctuary, you know. So David telling him, be strong, you know, and David telling him, do the work. Do the work. So David knew the work would be great. And so to encourage and challenge his son to accomplish something great for God. You know, so they were trying to make sure he do a good job. Trying to make sure he do a good job for God. Because he's not doing this for himself. He's doing this for God. You know, so then David had give his son Solomon the plan for the temple. Now its building is storerooms and upper rooms, you know, ankle rooms. You know, this gonna be a beautiful big temple. You know, so now we see that David gave his son Solomon the pattern of the porch, you know, of the temple, the pattern of the porch, house, and the treasury of upper chapel and inner room. You know, so he gave him the plan of all that the Spirit had put in his mind. Now, see, God put this in his mind. You know, this pattern. And see, they're gonna have another pattern. They're gonna have another one. This the first one that God put this. Now he received this pattern by a spirit. You know, a spirit that came upon him in his mind. You know, for the code of the temple of the law, all the surrounding rooms, now for the treasure of the temple of God, and for the treasure for dedicated things. Now the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit of God. Now who gave him the whole form of the temple and all the things relative to it? Just as God showed to Moses, you know. So Moses also had a dream, of a temple, and that's what he was saying. He shows to him in the spirit. A lot of time God will show you the spiritual. You know, so now the pattern of the tabernacle, in the mountain, by the spirit of prophecies that was with him, by the spirit of God showed David the pattern of the temple. See, David dreamed of this temple, but it's God plan, God plan. And David wanted to build it so bad. He wanted to do it so bad, but God wanted Solomon to do it. So he gave him instruction, for the division of the priests and the Levites, and for all the work of serving in the temple of the Lord, now as well as for all the article to be used in his service. Now, the priests and the Levites, when their temple is built, they're the priests. They're going to be the only one can set their foot in that temple, because see, the temple going to be holy. The temple going to be holy. And they're going to have special rules for this temple. So in the church, it's the gospel of the temple. In heaven, everlasting temple. All a frame according to the divine counsel. And a plane laid in divine wisdom, ordained before the world for God, glory, and our good. Now, all this David has said, I have in